Bonjour, welcome everyone, welcome back. In my best Parisian French accent, I have a joke for all of you. Did you know that the first French fries were not cooked in France? No, they were cooked in Greece. Apologies, but hopefully in my weird sense of humor there, I'm trying to allude a little bit to the French accent. So why am I doing this? As a quick recap of the laissez-faire management style. So just as a quick hook to link into the class, here we have in front of us here the 5 management styles. Quickly in your head, recap them, and I'll go through them with you. I might even do it in the French accent for a bit of fun. But just so you can follow along, because this will scaffold in really nicely into the main focus of the lesson. Okay, so laissez-faire first. Remember that it is where, as a manager, I leave you alone, I let you be, so the employees have the freedom to make their decisions. Communication is two-way. The manager steps back, and it's all about the individual making a decision. Sliding along. Participative. I might as well do it in the French accent. Is all about sharing the decision-making between us as a group. The group also consults, discusses, it's two-way, and finally the consensus is reached and we make a group decision. The next one I learn is consultative. This is one where I'm going to ask for employee input before the manager retains the final decision-making behind it all. Communication is two-way. The next one I learn is persuasive. Okay, and this one here, I'm trying to persuade you what to do. Okay, I'm keeping all the control. It's very much a single communication style where I'm telling you what to do, but persuading you in the nice way along. And heaven forbid if you can remember from the previous slide my slightly authoritarian approach. Autocratic is when I tell you what to do, okay? One-way communication, a demanding role where the manager makes all the decision and tells the employees what to do. Think about the strengths and weaknesses of each one, and we're going to build on this in the next lesson. For now, au revoir. So the focus of this lesson, obviously, is management styles, but today we're going to consider what's appropriate and when should we use them and where they're best used in business. So taking the study design and testing the dot points from it, we're looking at 4 key things from this. We're looking at when is it appropriate to use different management styles based on nature of task, time, employee experience, and manager preference. So which one is appropriate at what points and where are they best utilized in business? Now on this slide, I want you to slightly participate with me and be thinking, if you were a student in my class, what are you taking to be my management style? Okay, we've followed it along for a few slides now. We've covered a bit of content. You've got a bit of an idea of what I might be like. I want you to be thinking, at what point as I move along this line here is my preferred management style, or what you would expect to see me like if you were in my class? Am I laissez-faire? Am I participative? We make group decisions. Am I ask for your opinion, but I make the final say? Am I persuasive, telling you what to do in a nice way? Or am I autocratic, demanding you to do this right now? Now, what hopefully you've picked up from that is you've made a preference based on a number of things, and we're going to consider each one of these in turn. Do you think I'm always like whatever you thought about? Or do you think I can change under different classes and in different situations, which makes that style more appropriate than any other? And hopefully then you can see the parallels, not from a school perspective, but from a business perspective. When would a manager use a certain style, and when is it more or less appropriate to do so? So let's take the first of these factors, the nature of the task. What do we want to be thinking of is under what situations is it better to be autocratic or laissez-faire? Now, starting with laissez-faire, we've mentioned already in the slides that this works really well in creative situations, when we want loads of employee input, when we want lots of ideas to be fermenting and people making a decision about it, and people to have full control and autonomy about what they do. So this is going to really work well when we want the task or the task demands us to have that type of rich experience with lots of ideas and lots of creativity. At the opposing end, this is our nuclear power plant, so to speak. If something is absolutely like critical, life-threatening, if we get it wrong, it's going to really ruin everyone's day, then we probably want an autocratic approach where there is no input and no side decisions being made, but the manager retains total control. It will be done this way. It is my way or the highway, and we'll push that one through. Because you don't want the input, because the task is too important to upset. The more straightforward, important, or vital the task. Okay, so if it's vital, really important, or it's pretty straightforward, just do it my way. There's not a consensus or discussion to be made. Then the manager is going to be wanting to move to control it and opt for a more autocratic approach and slide down this line. The more creative we get, and we're going to benefit from having more ideas, team input, group bonding, we're going to be moving at least participative and possibly laissez-faire. And at any point between that, we might find there's a nice mix where we want ideas, but we want to retain the control because the task demands that. Maybe it's a marketing assignment where we've got a big campaign to run and I want loads of ideas, but I know that I'm going to make that final decision because I know the client better than anyone else. So the nature of the task is important, and I can shuffle along that line. Now, I'm going to go to a school perspective as well here. If you can imagine, it's the night before your sack. You would want me to have an autocratic, you need to know this for tomorrow type approach, okay? Because the task is really important. Equally, however, if we're having a brainstorm discussion about different skills that the manager might use and what people have got from their own past experiences, then I want your input and I want you to be involved. So I'm going to at least be consultative, and I might even move further down the line. So a teacher can move with nature task as well as a business manager. The next factor to consider is time. If I'm short of time, I'm going to move down the line here to a more autocratic persuasive. If I've got to get through a lot of content before the next sack and I'm running out of time, I'm going to move down this line here. If I've just finished a sack and we've got a bit of time about ourselves, then I'm going to be more into, okay, let's have a discussion about it. Because I know the styles down this side here are going to take longer. There's more input, there's more communication, there's more two-way. Whereas down here, it's much faster, more reactive. So, in a business situation, when time is critical, or there's a deadline rapidly approaching, where you must produce that report to the client by Friday, okay, then the management will naturally move to a more autocratic style because they've got to get it done. The deadline, the time is critical. We're going to move down this way. You can see the stress. Bring it on. You often see stress managers having that very autocratic. Do it right now. Okay, I demand it of you. Get it done. Equally, if you've got an extended time frame and we want ideas to ferment and ruminate and so on, and there's no pressure, then you will naturally, in a business scenario, move this way. Maybe not quite as laid back as this person here, but you're getting the idea that time is not of an essence, and therefore we can move to a more participative or even laissez-faire style. The next one, the experience of the employees. Now, let's first of all start with a teaching scenario first, and then we'll put the business one on the top, okay? Often you may argue, well, the teacher has the experience. The teacher has done the course, maybe done a degree in it, maybe studied to become a teacher, hopefully, as well on top, and maybe had some VCE experience in marking. Well, then they've got a lot of experience. They've got a lot of wisdom to share, so they're probably not going to be asking your opinion about which content to deliver first. They're going to move more this way, okay? If, however, though, it's a different scenario and teacher where I'm asking your opinion about the latest app that I can use in my classroom, and I know nothing about it because I'm old, okay, then I'm going to be more asking for your opinion because you have more experience than me. So the experience of the employees is really important. Now let's make it now to a business scenario. Unfortunately, if some of you have got a part-time job, and I'm not unfortunate about the job, but just about the experience, in the fast food industry, you work at McDonald's, KFC, you work at some of these big outlets and so on, they have an understanding that often you're at the beginning of your careers, and so you don't have a lot of experience of customer service to draw upon. So you'll often find in many of these industries and these employment that they will have a more autocratic or persuasive style because they're telling you what to do. There's no point asking your opinion about what temperature a burger should be cooked at if you haven't experienced that already. So often you'll see it move down that way for those type of jobs and your experiences. For experiences of people who are highly professional, have years of qualifications behind them, lawyers, medical practitioners, business advocates, consultants, people who have got a lot of wealth and knowledge behind them, in those businesses, often you'll just entrust them to do it. They know what they're doing. They've got all the degrees. They've got all the experience. And so get out of their way and let them do it. So in the legal field, often you see a more laissez-faire style. I'll give you the assignment. You get on and do it. You make your decision yourself. Or if there's a lot of wealth between us, maybe a participative style, because we're drawing a lot of information between us. We've got the wisdom, we've got the experience, draw on that. So, again, in a business scenario, when employees are inexperienced, it might not be worth asking their opinion. Therefore, a more autocratic style, just to instruct them, is going to be better. On the other hand, highly experienced and knowledgeable staff should be trusted for their opinion. In some cases, left to their own decision-making, laissez-faire. Okay, and the final factor to consider is the preference of the manager. If you were trying to guess earlier on, as I jumped along that line, what is my preferred management style, or in this case here, preferred teaching style, you'll be probably right in guessing it's consultative. Okay, I know that hopefully through my knowledge and being a student and then studying at university and then working in the field of business, and my experiences from that and then my teaching experiences, I hopefully know the content and I hopefully know what I'm trying to get my students to learn. Okay, so I have the knowledge, so I'm going to be telling them what to do, but I want them engaged by the process. So I'm going to be asking for their opinion and their feedback to help me make a better decision on their behalf. So for me, consultative works. And you will find if you came into my class that I might move up this angle here when I'm short of time, or I might move down in here when you've got more knowledge or wisdom on me in a certain area, or I've got more time, but I will naturally gravitate back because that's my preference. So if you think for your own experiences in part-time jobs or in other examples of business and case studies, in the absence of other variables, managers will commonly revert back to a management style that matches their personality, beliefs, skills, or values. Okay, so people have a style, and all things being equal, they will revert back to that. So, for example, autocratic for more controlling personalities, participative for more social, teamwork-focused personalities. So people will graduate back to their level. Okay, here's a worked example of quite a bit of detail. So what we will often find in the end-of-year exam that there'll be a case study. Okay, so the case study could have facts and figures. It could have a graph. It could have annotations. It might have some background on the business. Okay, so in this scenario here, I want you to take your time to read this one here rather than me reading it to you. Have a look at that slide there and then think how this question is going to be scaffolded up. It's going to ask you later on to evaluate which management style is best. So have that in your head as you read that case study. Okay, and this slide again adds the more detail. You can see there's a lot here to consider. We've now got some KPIs, which are called key performance indicators. There's some data about how the business is going. We've got staff turnover, which is about staff coming and going. So high staff turnover means lots of people are leaving and needing to be replaced. So at Adelaide, 40% of people are being turned over. Whereas down here at Melbourne, only 12%. So it's more stable workforce. At some of them, they've got high numbers of customer complaints. So at Adelaide, lots of people complaining. Okay. Whereas at Brisbane, less people are complaining. More people are happy. So again, take that into consideration. I'll give you again a couple of minutes, then you can see how this question is going to draw on all that background knowledge. Okay, and now we can see the question at hand. Okay, so here's an example of a VCAR adapted question from the end of year exam, which draws on that case study. So the question now specifically asks us, we have a human resource manager, is known, so they've got a background history in autocratic management style. Evaluate the suitability of this management style as the score closures are implemented. So we're closing down some businesses. This person is responsible for the human resources, and we've got an evaluate. So we're seeing, is this style appropriate or not? Now, this is another important task word. If we take it from VCAR here, evaluate means to have a strength, a weakness, and then ultimately come to a conclusion. Is this appropriate, suitable, or not? So, evaluate questions. Strength, weakness, and an opinion, a conclusion that draws all that together. So we need to scaffold that quite a bit. And obviously we can see here in the marking guide where the marks get attributed. So we've got 2 marks for the strengths, describing them, 2 marks for the weaknesses, and then an ultimate conclusion. And we're going to draw all our knowledge about what's appropriate. How much time do we have? How much experience do the workers have? What's the nature of the task? If you think about it, we're closing some stores. That's quite an important task. And what's the preference of the manager? You draw that into your answer to lead you to a final conclusion. Now, this is important. These type of questions, this can sometimes be a personal opinion. Your decision about which is more appropriate might be different to one of your friends. Both answers could be technically correct if you justify them appropriately. So follow this structure here to scaffold towards a high answer. If you can see at the top here, these type of questions are quite a differentiator for students. It separates out students who have some understanding, who can then build upon that with a bit more depth and add the strengths and weaknesses, and someone who can see all of that and then have the conclusion at the end. So definitely well worth practicing on these questions. Have a go, and then in the next slide here, you're going to see my worked solution. So this is how we'd structure it out, okay? I'll take your time rather than reading through it because there's quite a bit of text to go. But if you see the way I'm going to structure this, the first section here is all the strengths. What is the advantage linked to those things about time, nature of task, the preference, and the skills and the work and experience of the employees? I'm then going to unpack the weaknesses. Autocratic, doesn't have two-way communication. It can sometimes be a bit assertive and a bit aggressive, might damage employee morale in this scenario. And here we have a store closing. How are people going to be feeling about that? Unpack that. And then finally, we're going to have the opinion, your conclusion. Is this style appropriate or not appropriate? Okay, is it suitable or not suitable based on the evidence portrayed behind you? So hopefully you can now see how you can scaffold and build up a really nice answer to try and aim for those high marks where you're doing everything that's required. You're evaluating with all that knowledge that you've acquired in the area of styles and the appropriateness of using them in different situations. Okay, hopefully a nice summary concept map to put together to seal all this in. So we've already covered a concept map of the 5 management styles. Okay, whether it's one-way or two-way communication, who makes the decision, and whether the location of control is of the manager or with the group. So we've covered that already. Now I want to layer on this bit here, okay? The idea being that the nature of the task, if it's vitally critical, if it's really important to be run, if it's effectively dangerous or it needs to be controlled, we'll move down this line, okay? If the task is requiring more creativity and input from group decision making, we'll move down this way towards the participative styles. Time, again, draw the lines. If you're short of time and deadlines are approaching, move up towards persuasive and autocratic. If you've got plenty of time and you can have more discussions about it, move down the line to participative and laissez-faire. If the employee experience, if it's really strong and people know it already, trust them, empower them, and move down the line. If they don't have much experience, then please don't ask things from them that they can't provide. So you'd move up to persuasive. And finally, with manager preference, you'd be going, okay, well, people have a natural point where their personality fits that management style. They're probably going to gravitate towards that, all other things being equal. So you take all of those 4 factors into consideration and then work out which is the most appropriate management style for different scenarios. And once you're armed with that knowledge, you can tackle any of these questions. So well done. Great job. And finally, what's coming up next? Our next slides are on management skills. So I look forward to seeing you then.